We got a lot to get into. You have an amazing story. And we were just talking before the call. We're both Canadians, so we have that connection, which is cool.
Yeah.
I want to start off talking about a journey you made at 11 years old. And this was done by using air miles. Your parents, I think it was with both your parents, your younger brother, and yourself. You guys flew from Saskatchewan to Hawaii, where you're now living. And we're going to get to all that and fill in the blanks. But let's talk about what that journey was like at the time. And was it you that had initiated that trip?
Oh yeah, I was always a dreamer, and so I would always look up pictures of Hawaii, and I was trying to plant this idea in my dad's head that we should go, and never thought it would actually happen because we'd never done a trip like that before. We were all about the road trips across beautiful Canada. But yeah, it always felt like this far off dream from where I grew up.
And what was it about Hawaii, though? Like, was there a specific movie you had seen or a book you'd read or a documentary? What was it about that place, again, where you're now living that pulled you in?
Well, I grew up in Saskatchewan, which is in the prairies, as you know, but in the malls and stuff, you would see palm trees, the brand Roxy and these pictures of surfing, and it just seemed like such a fantasy land. And I used to play this game, I think it was called Earthworm Jim on Atari, and there was like this island that you could make it to, and there's this hot tub with these palm trees, and just that whole concept was like, oh, that's not even real life. And so I just always had this a bit of obsession with it. Like I would go to Blockbuster looking for movies that had Hawaii in it just so I could, see what it's like. This was before social media, before you could just Google images and find anything you want. Like you really had to search to know what another place in the world was like. And so I think that probably adds to that lust and, fantasy of this other place in the world.
So you're dreaming about going to this fantasy place. You finally get there at 11. What's it like? Does it disappoint at all? And what is that trip like?
Oh, I cried when we left. Like when the island disappeared, the clouds came and you couldn't see the island anymore. I had tears coming down my face thinking like I'll never be a part of that again. It was a dream. It was a total dream. I was just in awe of everything, even the amount of leaves and how big the leaves were, and like the salty air and the waves and the people. I felt like I was born in the wrong place. Even though I loved my childhood, it was just like, wow, this is where I want to be.
So you knew at that point you were going to eventually get back there somehow or another?
No, I didn't think, I thought that was a one-time thing for sure. I thought I was already lucky enough to experience it once, and that was a one-time thing, and that was it. So I just remember going to school, walking on the snowbanks to school, and where I'm from, they get piled up super high, and so we'd always just walk across them. And I'd look at the sun thinking, wow, that's the same sun shining in Hawaii. And I was like, every time it was like a reminder every time I'd see the sun, like, wow, that same sun gets to shine in Hawaii and life goes on over there. And I'm not a part of it. I'm over here. And, I think my dad saw how much I loved it. I talked about it all the time. I painted waves on my walls. I put a hammock in my bedroom, and he just told me one day, like, if you want to go back, you can. And that sentence just really blew my mind. Like, what do you mean? And he just said, you have the power to go back, just earn enough money, get good enough grades, like you could go to school there. And so at a very young age, I was like, okay, there's a way to get there. So, I'd save my little money that I could make. And then when I got to where I could get a job, I'd save my money. And I would do things like wear the same pair of shoes for 4 years and just like, it was super frugal my whole high school years. Always packed a lunch instead of eating out, like anything I could to just make it more possible for me to get to where now I thought is up to me if I'm going to get there or not.
So towards the end of high school, you apply to go to college in Hawaii. And what happens?
I got denied. And so that was a crushing moment. At the time, I was painting houses as like my job in the summertime, the outside of houses. And the letter came to me. My dad drove it over and it said I got denied. And my life was just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And it said I had to do a year in college in Canada, get like A's, like straight A's to reapply to get another chance. And so at the time I thought, I'm crushed. This isn't going to happen, and I had 2 days to decide if I was going to enroll in school and college in my hometown. And after 2 days and, brushing off like the defeat, which seemed like such a big deal at that time in my life, basically my dad was like, again, like, you're not going to go by not doing anything. So what are you going to do? So I was just like faced with that block again, like, okay, you're right. Like, I'm not going to go if I just keep painting houses and not go to school. And, being a Canadian or someone that's not an American citizen, I needed like some sort of visa to go to Hawaii. So school was the way in my plan. And so, yeah, I did 30 credits in my college town. I worked my butt off. I got straight A's and I was just kind of like a friend sport, like, school's whatever. Like I applied to in the first time with not the greatest grades. And so I just made it so that I was on top of my classes. Everything was like looking good, sent it in. And then I called the school and in Hawaii and asked them like, I just want to know if you got my application. And I'm like, it's from Saskatchewan. And they're like, Saskatchewan, haha, like laughed. They'd never heard of it. And then I said my hometown, which is Regina, and they laughed even harder. And I was like, I think you need someone there. You don't have any of like my kind over there. And they're like, we'll keep an eye out for you. And then I got accepted and life changed after that point really fast for me.
So when you were going to school back at home initially, what were you taking?
I was taking psychology. I had the idea that I'd become like a marketing psychologist. So I wanted to get my PhD and just that's what really fascinated me is psychology.
And then when you got accepted to college in Hawaii, were you continuing that same program or did you make a switch?
I kept that same program and also took a minor in anthropology. Yeah.
So because it was such a journey to get there and you'd been saving your money, you'd been working, you got denied the first time you applied, how sweet was it when you finally arrived in Hawaii and this dream that you had lived since you were such a little girl came to fruition?
Oh, it was the best. And like I got picked up by this, big Polynesian guy and he dropped me off at my place that I was renting and there was no one there to greet me. There was other girls I'd be living with. They weren't there. They must have been off island still. And so he like broke in the window for me. I didn't know which bed was mine. So I slept on the floor for like 4 days. And it was like, I guess looking back could have been like oh my gosh, this is crazy. But to me, it was just like, oh, this is awesome. I even remember seeing this big dog on this fence the next day when I woke up and I put on a little backpack. I'm like, okay, I need to go see what's around here. Like, I know no one. I know nothing. I'm just going to go walk around and see what happens. And I saw this big dog and I thought it was a bear. And I just backed up and started sprinting. And there's no animals in Hawaii. There's like pigs and chickens. The Canadian girl in me was like, that's a big animal. Step back.
So other than the dog, it sounds like you were pretty brave taking on living at home, probably for the first time on your own, and you're in a new country and you're on an island. And was this the first time you were living alone?
Yeah. It was my first time.
Were you scared at all or intimidated?
I don't know. I guess I probably was, but my nerves came off as excitement, I think. And, you just kind of go on with your day and it just kind of unravels. And yeah, it just like, I think because I was alone though, things quickly turned in my favor. Like I met people really fast. It was the next day, this neighbor boy came over and was like, "Oh, you're new. Let me take you on a hike. Let me take you surfing. Like, this is where you go do this," like kind of put me under his arm and just started showing me around the island. And I think because I was alone, that helps, you be more open to meeting new people, and people are more open to meeting you. And so it was nerve wracking, but it was also just like those pinch me. Like, I mean, have you been to Hawaii before?
I've never been. It's definitely on the list of places I want to travel to, but I've never been. No.
Oh, no kidding. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. And for me it was so different. Like I'd never really seen the ocean before that last time I'd went, and so I was in awe. I was just like, I'll just take it. I'm taking it all. I don't care if I sleep on the floor. This is the dream.
So this guy that you met that took you surfing and took you under his arm, was that Shem?
It wasn't. No, Shem didn't live here. He was actually living in Tahiti when I first moved here.
So what island were you on when you moved there for school?
Oahu, the same island we live now.
So I don't think it was too long before you met Shem. How did you guys connect initially?
So my first semester here, Shem did not live here, but I started dating a guy, and he was good friends with Shem's brothers. Shem has 6 brothers, and it was just a small little college town, and near the beach. And so everyone kind of knew each other. And the guy I was dating was good friends with his brothers. And so I would go over to Shem's house. I'd never met Shem. He didn't live there. He was actually doing a service mission in Tahiti for a couple of years. And so, yeah, I met his dad, I met his brothers, and they would always say like, "Oh, we have this brother. He'd be perfect for you. Like, can't wait for you to meet him." And they would say this in front of my, at the time, boyfriend. And it was just always kind of like a joke. And I never took it seriously or anything. But I did a semester. I went home to Canada to work. And then when I came back was when Shem was back. And the day I landed in Hawaii is the day I met Shem for the first time.
I see. So going back home for the first time after spending a whole semester in Hawaii, what was that like for you going back home?
It was amazing, but I was home. My parents had moved to Alberta, and I didn't have much time. I had a few months to earn enough money for the next year. And so I just grinded. I waitressed for 14 hours a day, like double shifts as much as I could, so I could make as much money as I could to, get through the next year.
Got it. So your head was down, you were focused. You go back to Hawaii and right away you meet Shem. And how did you end up connecting with him when you got back there?
So I moved into the house that his brother was living in. Like, there was a lot of houses in Hawaii are split up. And so, girls lived below, boys lived on top kind of thing. And so I had just happened to be moving into the bottom half of the house, and his brother and his college mates were living on the top half. And so I walked up to the door, and all the Hannemann brothers were there, and they were just like hanging out. And I knew them all except for Shem. So I, give them all a hug, like, "Hi, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while." And then I got to Shem, and I was just like, shook his hand, like, "Oh, hi, I'm Andrea." And it was like, I'd had all these pre-notions about him. Like, even the day before I left back home to Canada, his younger brothers, like, I went surfing with them, and they're like, "Your husband will be waiting for you when you get back." Like, they're always bugging me about Shem. And so I just kind of like shook his hand and like put my head down and like, tried to ignore him. And yeah, the ignoring didn't last very long.
So when you got back there, were you and your previous boyfriend apart at that point?
Yeah, my other boyfriend, he was super into surfing. I never really thought of it as a serious relationship. Like, we just had a really good time, and he was traveling all summer. And so in my eyes, we were split up. But when I got back, he had told Shem, that I learned later, that he was going to marry me. And I think it was that competitive nature in this guy to, hopefully he doesn't watch this, but to, put in stakes for the next college, semester or whatever, that we were back together, but we actually weren't at the time.
And it didn't take you and Shem long to really come together and, form a strong bond. I think it was within a week you guys got engaged. Is that correct?
Yeah. So I was walking home. It was about 10 o'clock at night, and I saw him, and we were just, had to pass each other. And he was walking home, and I was just like, oh, it's rude not to say hi. I'd kind of been trying to ignore him, and I could tell he was like, felt like there was like this, I don't want to, people think we're supposed to be together, so I'm not even going to like go in that direction. Like I had no plans of marriage, like, or anything. I just wanted to be free and have fun. And then, yeah, we ended up talking all night, and the sun rose, and we were still standing in that same spot talking. And then, yeah, that was a week later he proposed.
And a week later, when that proposal happened, were you confident this was the man you wanted to spend the rest of your life with, or did you have to think about it, or how did that go?
Even before I met him, before I even met his brothers, when I first got to Hawaii, this one girl said, when does Shem get home? And because Shem was like there's a lot of girls that really like Shem that like, I didn't know, but they're like, oh, when's Shem getting home, And that name just really hit me. And I thought it was really weird because I'd never had that feeling before of like this, like, ugh, like I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I told one friend and I told my dad. I'm like, yeah, I heard this name and I've never seen a picture of him or anything, but I just like can't get it out of my mind. And then, meeting his family and them talking about him, I just kind of always like this, that's that name again. Like this is that guy's family. Why do I have this feeling for this someone that I don't even know? And then when I shook his hand, in my mind, I think I was so awkward because all I could think was, that's who you're going to marry. And then like meeting that night and like, it was just like, yeah, I don't know. Everything that happened that week was saying, this is the guy you're going to meet. And then it was like a Wednesday, like 3 days after we met, and he snuck us into this pool that was by the beach. And he told me he thought he was falling in love with me. And he's like, was teary eyed. And I was, the same. It was just like everything I was thinking, he came back and was on the same page kind of thing. Like there was no denying. And when I called my parents to ask them, like, is it possible to fall in love? They're like, yeah, that's where the term comes from. And before I even asked them that, they said, when's the date? Like I called them, they're like, so when's the date? I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, didn't you meet that Shem guy? And they're like, when are you guys going to get married? And I was like, wait, what? And because every other guy I'd ever dated, they were like, yeah, like he seems fun, but, never anything more than that. So it was just like everyone knew, like even his side of the family, everyone just knew like you guys were meant for each other. It was the craziest thing. It's hard to explain.
No, it's beautiful. And there was the knowing from everybody, but was the support there as well from his side of the family and your side?
Yeah, everyone except for his mom once asked me, like, please don't marry him yet. Like, she said, I know it's right. I really love you. I want you guys to get married, but you guys are so young. Like, can you just wait a little longer? Like, I want him home for at least one more year, And I was like, oh, maybe you'll have to ask him, because I was 19, we were babies. And I had one brother who was like, whoa, like, I need to meet this guy first. I have 5 brothers. And this one was like, absolutely not until I meet him, big brother, like support. And then he met him and was like, oh yeah, you have to marry him.
So how long did you guys wait before getting married?
3 months.
So not that long. Things were still at a pretty fast pace and you guys got married. Let's talk about Shem's backstory. Where was he born and what was growing up like for him?
So he has 6 brothers and his dad is Samoan. And so most of his brothers were born in Hawaii, and then they moved to California for a couple or about 15 years, and that's where Shem was born. And then they moved back when he was about 15 years. And so he grew up his childhood in California and now in Hawaii. And he has a big family. I think there's a couple hundred of his side of the family here, and grew up with some Polynesian traditions and American traditions. And so looking at him, he looks like a Caucasian boy, but he is like the whitest one of this family. Like crossing a border, they always got questions, because his mom is a blonde haired, blue eyed, and his dad's a Samoan man. So they had, very interesting childhood.
And what was your childhood like? You mentioned the five brothers. Did you have any sisters?
I had one half sister, and she was quite older than me, and so she was out of the house by the time I was like 5 years old, going to college. So we became much closer once we were both adults and having kids. Like as a kid, I was like, "Whoa, where are you going?" She was so much older than me. But yeah, I grew up with a very big family as well.
And what was that like being a kid with all those siblings? And what were your parents like?
It was the best. Like I guess I don't know any different. I feel like we grew up quite traditional. Both my parents were immigrants from Germany and Ireland, and we just grew up very traditional. You sat down for dinner, like things that people don't do as much. Maybe people still do this in Canada, but like, yeah, I don't know. It was a very simple life. In a lot of ways, I feel like the way I grew up in Canada is similar to Hawaii in the sense that there's this love for nature, and you follow kind of weather patterns. My dad grew up a farmer, and so now it's for the surf, and before it's for your crops, and so yeah, we would go on road trips once in a while. We visit family. Yeah, pretty simple life.
I see. So you guys get married 3 months later, you're married. And at that point, do you continue with your schooling, or what do you do in regards to that?
Yeah, so we were both in school now. A year later, I got pregnant. That wasn't a plan either. Continued to go to school. Then I brought my baby to school with me. We were so young, and so we just kind of had to make everything work. I got a job, like we both got a job cleaning different villas, like, vacation rentals in Hawaii. And then we get like random modeling jobs for hotels here, and just kind of did what we could to get by and, raise our little baby. And, it seemed busy. Like we had a couple jobs, we're both going to school, had a baby, but it seemed like we were just living the life, like not a lot of stress, just kind of make it, we surfed every day and worked hard and were together. It felt like, I don't know, I felt like I had won the lottery. So
It sounds like it. So what was it like having your family back at home in Canada, and you have this young baby and not having, the physical support? And obviously you can connect, there's all this technology these days like Zoom and stuff to connect. But what was it like just being so far away from family, being pregnant and then raising a young one?
Well, I always felt like there was family close by. Shem's family's here, and I would call home quite often. And I was just so in love with Shem too that I was almost didn't want to share my time. Like I was so happy that like we could have this experience of, bringing home a baby and doing it together instead of like relying on my mom or something. Like I really wanted Shem to be there and us to figure it out together, So I actually, once I had more children, wanted once I had the help of my mom, I was like, oh, this is why people want help. Like, this is so nice to have someone to like, do the dishes and be there for support and whatnot. But for our first child, I think that, we could do it ourselves, and it was good.
Have any of your family made the move to Hawaii over the years?
No, but most of them did go to school in the U.S. and ended up marrying American girls. And so I have a few brothers in California, Arizona, and Utah.
Nice. So there's the water division there, but they're somewhat close.
Yeah. It's funny because my brothers would always, feel like they were counseling me before I moved out here. Like, if you go to Hawaii, you're going to marry some surfer boy, you're going to be poor, you're going to live on the beach. Like, do you really want that? I'm like, yeah. What else do you need? But come to find out, living on the beach costs millions of dollars. Those shacks are not as accessible as once thought.
Do you travel between the islands a lot, or are you guys pretty set on Oahu?
We have traveled through the islands. I wish we did it more. Like before, it used to be like if we're going to go on a trip, you save up and you want to go to a different country, like something totally new. But actually, each of the islands are very different and all have a unique personality. So, all the islands are great to visit if you have a chance.
And you've been to all of them at this point?
Most of them. There's some small ones that aren't that traveled to, but like it's not as easy to travel to, or is not that much there. And so mostly just like the Big Island, Maui, Kauai, and yeah, those main islands is the more that we've visited.
If you weren't living on Oahu, it sounds like you're very happy there and you have Shem's family for support. But where else in Hawaii, what other island would you want to be on if you had to pick another?
For sure, Kauai. Kauai is like the Garden of Eden. It is just on another level of beautiful. And there's still surf there. Like my family surfs. And so if there isn't waves, then I think they might go a little loco. So that definitely has like the most variety still. But Kauai is also a lot of hiking. It's a little slower pace. Oahu's pretty busy now. Like there's a metropolitan city, even the North Shore. We live in the country where there's mountain and ocean and one highway. And so it's relatively small, but there's people everywhere. Like right now, if you wanted to leave the North Shore, it would take you an hour to get out because of how much traffic there is, because the surf is all big and stuff. So it's a little bit more grounded, I would say, on the other islands.
So the surf where you guys are, can you walk to good surf?
Yeah, it's across the street.
That's so amazing. And it sounds like it didn't take you too long to get into surfing. I think it was the next day after you came to Hawaii for school, you met that guy that took you surfing. So did you take to surfing right away, or was there a little bit of resistance in the beginning?
Oh, I loved it from the first time. Like even just getting rocked. Like I didn't have a fear of the ocean because I probably didn't understand it. I think I am much more cautious than I am now. And so I just like everything, getting washed around in the shore or on a wave. Like I loved it.
And now the whole family surfs. You have 3 young boys. I mean, is your youngest, I think he's only about 1 year old, right?
He just turned 2 the other day. Yeah.
2, gotcha. So I saw a picture on your Instagram. He was on a surfboard, but obviously he's a little young to be surfing. The other 2 boys, they're into surfing?
Very much so, yeah.
And how old are they?
12 and 8 now.
Got it. So, and your husband, he surfs too, I assume?
Yeah, he grew up surfing.
Nice. Is it something like there's a lot of sports, like golf is an example, where you can invest your whole life and continue to get better and better at it? Like there's always something new to learn. Do you find surfing's like that too, where over the years you've been able to continue to evolve your skill and continue to learn new things?
Yeah, it's a pretty beautiful sport in that sense. Like there's a lot of families that are able to do it together. Shem's dad's 66 and he still surfs, and it's very common to see a 70-year-old guy who's out there ripping with the 20-year-olds. Like it's a good sport to keep you young and healthy and out in nature. It's really a very cool sport to be able to do that.
Is there anybody in Hawaii who's anti-surfing, or pretty much everybody gets into it?
On the North Shore, it's it's definitely a dominant sport. But other parts of the island, it can be as like a mainland, it's like almost like a mainland city. So you have some people that don't even go to the beach, But yeah, surfing's definitely the number one sport. And actually, jiu-jitsu is very popular here, and skateboarding.
And I saw again on your social media, you guys have a half pipe on your property for the kids, right?
Yeah, Shem YouTube that and built that.
Do you and your husband skate at all, or just the boys?
Shem skates. I don't. As I get older, I don't like falling on hard surfaces anymore. I stick to the water.
Well, Andy, a big part of your story I want to take some time and really get into is your health journey. So talk about when your health started to decline. What age was that?
So when I was younger, still living in Canada, I always had different, health elements that held me back. I had asthma. I had chronic fatigue. I was always very active, always in a lot of sports, basketball, volleyball, track, but I was always fighting through something, and I actually thought it was normal. Like I didn't know any different. Like I didn't know what really feeling good felt like. And then I started seeing different specialists and eventually found one in another province. And he found out like I was celiac and that I needed to change certain things in my diet. And he said I would experience changes in my health if I did this. And if I didn't, I would get Crohn's disease and all these sorts of things that I was on the path to get. And so at that age, I had found out that my main thing was that I was celiac. So I cut out wheat from my diet. I became as health conscious as I could. And that did make quite a big difference. Like I didn't have an inhaler after 3 months of eating this way. I no longer had asthma. And I was feeling quite vibrant, like the most vibrant I've ever felt. And then getting into college and marrying Shem. Shem was living off of Hot Pockets and Snicker bars. I don't know if you know what a Snicker bar is, like candy bars. And I just slowly started like not being on top of my health. And it just, before I knew it, I was in chronic pain all the time. And I was probably eating still healthier than probably the average person, or in comparison to Shem. I felt like I was eating healthier, but my body just started shutting down to the point where I couldn't even drink water without feeling like my body was shutting down. Like I had a hard time functioning as a person. And it wasn't until about 6 years ago that I went through, going through a bunch of specialists, different doctors saying, okay, well, you need this hormone or you need this medication and you'll have to take it for life. And I knew that I didn't want to be on a medication because for me, that's a rabbit hole of once you start that, you're going to have other problems and, that's not fixing anything. So I was on the journey to fix whatever was wrong with me. And then I've done a lot of research on this plant-based eating and seen it online and seen these transformations that I truly did not believe. I thought these people were lying. And at the time, I couldn't even imagine eating a banana or a blueberry. That would be something that would make my stomach like explode inside and hurt. And, but I couldn't get it out of my mind. And after I'd seen like different doctors for about 6 months, I just one night just thought like, you know what, this is the way I'm going to have to live. Like, I'm just going to have to live with these problems and there's nothing I can do. And then feeling quite defeated, I just had this thought, like, just try trusting in nature. Like I had read, fruit and vegetables are the most gentle foods for your body to digest. And I'm having such a difficult time digesting that maybe if I just only do those things for, say, 30 days was my goal now, that it would give my body a chance to like reset or something. And so I didn't have a lot of confidence in it. I didn't want to tell anyone because I didn't know what I was really doing. I didn't have confidence in it. And I was nervous to just tell people. So I kept it a secret. And that was the day I opened Earthy Andy and I was using it as a journal. I said, for 30 days, I'm going to journal. I'm going to just make sure I do it every day and see if I can just get through this 30 days of my health change of using plants to heal.
That's incredible. Preparing for this interview, I went back and looked at your first posts and some of your first posts. Is that something you've done in the last bit? Because I know now have this incredible account and so many followers. But do you ever go back and look at the roots?
I did like 8 months ago, my husband and I, and yeah, it's so crazy. It just kind of took me back to that very vulnerable time. Like, I didn't understand social media. I didn't think people would look at it. It was really a personal journal, and it was a way for me to connect with people that knew what they were doing and doing this lifestyle that I wanted to learn about. And it made me quite nervous when people I knew started to see it. Like even Shem didn't know I was doing it. I kept it a secret from him too. And
How is that possible? Talk more about that.
Well, I was just, I mean, it goes to show how observative, is that a word? Men can be, maybe. No, so like it wasn't until we went on a date and I had gone to the bathroom or something and he ordered me calamari. It was like this gluten-free calamari that used to be my favorite. Like I loved it before. And I told him, "Oh, I'm not going to eat that." And he's like, "Well, why not?" I'm like, "Well, I'm a vegan now." He's like, "What do you mean you're a vegan?" And I just said, "Yeah, I've been actually for the past 3 weeks. You just haven't noticed." And so the way he didn't notice is I just didn't talk about it. I just made food and ate the part that didn't have meat in it and gave them the normal meal that they would normally have. And I wanted to keep it a secret, partly because I was shy about it. I didn't really want to talk about it. I thought that might discourage me from continuing to do it because I'm very much a like go with the flow. Like I don't want to be stiff and like now I already don't eat wheat and now I'm going vegan. So I just didn't want the attention. And I also wanted to see if I could do this extreme change and no one noticed. And if no one noticed, that's a huge plus for me. Like I can eat this way and, you know, have this certain lifestyle without changing my friends or, you know, your social aspects of life. And so the fact that I got through barbecues, birthday parties, even Easter, where, you know, ham and turkey and all those sorts of things are a main course, no one noticed what was on my plate. And that taught me that no one really cares what each other's eating. And if you don't bring attention to it, then it's just your choice. Like you want to eat chicken nuggets, go for it. I'm going to eat an apple. Like what's the difference, you know? And so that gave a good confidence to me that you can just make your own choices and it's really not that big of a deal.
Let's come back to this dinner when Shem found out you're a vegan. So he orders the calamari, you tell him you're a vegan. How does he respond?
So at first he didn't believe me and he didn't believe that I wouldn't eat that plate of food. And so by the end of the meal, when I'd eaten what I ordered and I didn't eat that appetizer, he's like, there's no way you're not eating that. Like, I don't even believe it. And when I didn't, and when we just started talking about it, I just said, yeah, I've been doing it and I actually am feeling so much better. And he noticed I was feeling better. It was getting to the point now that people were like, what are you doing? Like, you seem so much more vibrant and healthy. Like, and I would just say, oh, I'm eating more fruits and vegetables. Like, just, you know, just kept it really like a chill answer and wasn't really ready to talk about it too much. And he saw the difference and he was really stoked for me. He said, oh, if this is working, that's amazing. Like, I'd been trying so hard to feel good and he knew how much pain I was in all the time. I was throwing up all the time. Like, and so to have something that was actually working was really exciting for him too. So he was all about it as he ate his burger.
So the early days, it didn't take long till you were seeing good results and you're feeling better. But the really early days when you made that switch and you created Earthy Andy, what were the first few days, first week like? Was there kind of a regression before a progression?
Yeah. So before I started Earthy Andy, I had been with a doctor and she advised me to eat 80% plants and then 20% protein. So for the 4 months before I started eating just plant-based vegan, I was eating quite strict, but I was having no results. I was getting my blood work taken and she was just really confused why I wasn't progressing. And so that's when I decided, okay, I'm going to cut out the meat. She didn't advise it, but I was going to do it anyways and just keep it to myself and see if there was a change. And 2 weeks into that change, I had my blood taken again. And she said, I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop. It's working. And so that was a huge motivator to me. Like, wow, like that's the first time I've heard positive, and it was an exciting positive from this doctor. And so at first I actually felt worse. Like, and I'd read that this is normal, like the detox. I'm having all this fresh food in coming to my body. And if you read into the detox, they say it's basically your body's going to start releasing buildup, and that's going to cause things like headaches, your skin to break out, bloating. And I experienced all of that. But it actually made me excited. Like, okay, something's changing in me. This is the food starting to work on me, and it's cleaning house basically. And so I took the headaches, I took the crazy breakouts I had on my skin, and I felt like I was 6 months pregnant. My stomach was like a ball. But I just continued to do it and thought I have to wait the 30 days before I have to have a true opinion of this. And if at 30 days this didn't work, then whatever, move on. But I'm really glad that I told myself to wait the 30 days to have an opinion, because if I decided 10 days in, I would have probably quit because I wasn't feeling better yet. But closer to that 30 days is when it was like a switch in my body happened, and it was for the first time food entering my body. I could feel energy entering into my bloodstream. Like I could feel the food nourishing me. My brain felt clear. I was so much happier, like effortlessly happy. Like before, I was living and waiting to sit down in the day. Like I had young kids, and I would, try to be the best mom I can, take them to the beach and be with them all day. But in my mind, I was suffering. Like I couldn't wait to go home and just sit down. And now I just felt like the day is yours. Like you want to make the most of it. And I just felt like a completely different person. Like I was really enjoying the life that was in front of me and not living with this like internal suffering that was kind of dampening my entire life. And so it was around that time that it felt a change. I could feel the nourishment in my body when I was eating, and then I just felt so much better. So it was such a change that it's made me feel so passionate about it, which is why I continue to share a health message and on social media, because I was once that person that was lost and didn't know what options were out there and didn't realize how much you can do for yourself by simply just making daily habit changes. And it doesn't have to be that difficult. And it's just going back to your roots basically. And just, we live in a world has so many options now, and everything is so accessible that it can get really confusing. And including all the studies and diets out there, like it can get you lost, and you can start to have problems that if you just simplify your life and go back to your roots, eat in season, eat the foods that are around you. Like there's a lot of freedom and abundance in that can easily get overlooked in today.
And you talked about suffering internally there. I'm curious, over all the years while you're having all these different health complications and you were suffering internally, what were you portraying on the outside? Did people really understand what you were going through, or was it something you were keeping bottled up inside?
Oh, it's definitely a personal thing. Like I definitely kept it to myself. I mean, Shem would definitely see, or my parents or whatever, but I always just put a smile on and, did my best to just hide it, and I would do things like I wouldn't eat in the day so that I wouldn't have such crazy stomach pains. Cause when I like couldn't even sit up straight because it was like this knife, or I would throw up. And so, I had a terrible relationship with food for years because of the way it affected me immediately. So yeah, it was very much a personal secret, I guess you could call it.
Well, it's interesting earlier when you talked about the fact you couldn't even have a banana or a blueberry, at least from the outside. Again, I haven't been to Hawaii, but on the from the outside in, it looks like there's all kinds of amazing local fruit growing there, and there's probably amazing choices for somebody living the lifestyle you do. So to not be able to partake in that because of your health and consume different fruits, that must have been so devastating.
Yeah, I looked at that food and thought, no way, it's like not worth it. I just, yeah, I would never do it just because I knew how much it would hurt my stomach. And so when people say, oh, I can't eat fruit, it makes me bloat or something like that. And I say, oh, I used to be like that. And it's always shocking for them because, if you are that person at the time, it is kind of scary. Like, you just can't see it any other way. And now I can live off it. I could eat 10 bananas in a day and feel great. I never have stomach aches anymore unless I do something like binge on bad food, but you can change that overnight and just like, okay, that was a bad, I indulged. Like, I know how to get back on track. Like, before it felt like food was controlling me. I didn't have any control. And now I feel like I'm in complete control and can make choices. And it's amazing to be on the other side of it.
That's incredible. I'm so happy for you. And I'm curious, again, from the outside in, seeing Hawaii and seeing pictures on Instagram and on the internet and documentaries, it looks like the fruit and vegetables there are incredible. When you're actually living there day to day, is it what I'm picturing, or what is it like?
So it is. There is fruit growing everywhere. Like, if you have land here, you can grow everything that you would ever need. It's very easy to grow fruits and vegetables here. But the other part of it is it's very expensive to buy. And so if you don't have a neighbor that you can trade bananas for avocados or that sort of thing, it can get very expensive. And so, like, for example, people come on vacation, they're like, oh my gosh, it's so expensive. And it is if you're buying food in the stores. And there are ways around it, like you can buy in bulk and that sort of thing. But if you actually live here and you have like friends and community that you can, trade, because most people have too much on their property and they're trying to get rid of it. Like, there's a lot of homeless people here that do very well off of the fruits of the land. It's a great place to have all those sorts of things. But food in most other places are much more affordable. It's the price of food here is pretty expensive if you're buying it all from the store.
And then for you and your family, are you guys doing any gardening, or do you have any fruit trees on your property?
So currently we rent, and so we don't have a lot of control over what's on the property. But we do have a garden that has gone neglected from traveling too much. We have a few fruit trees on the property. And then, yeah, like I said, great neighbors, people that are like, oh, you guys eat a lot of bananas. Here's a stalk of bananas kind of thing. So it's pretty fun to barter. Like, I'll trade them different things for different fruits. And that's very common around here.
So, Andy, before you make the switch, before you open up Earthy Andy and start documenting your journey, who were your influences that, you began to learn from and see this other lifestyle that you ended up living? Who did you go to for information and for learning?
YouTube. I was watching all sorts of documentaries. I can't remember if it was Forks Over Knives or Food Matters. I watched them all. Anything that had to do with like healing from natural foods, I was all about. There was some Instagrammers that were quite popular at the time. There's one, Loney Jane, this Freely Banana Girl, and yeah, just different people, like just reading other people's stories. I would just kind of Google hashtags like plant-based and start asking people their stories on just what they found worked for them. Yeah, and every time I heard of someone's real story, it was really powerful for me. Like, because I'd gone to so many doctors that were like, oh, yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Or I don't know about, you can't fix that. You need to go on this medication. And, there's got to be other ways, right? And so when you hear it happening to someone, it really helps give you confidence that it's possible.
And within your community, the island you're on, are there other influencers in your space in the plant-based world that you communicate with, that you're friends with? Like, what's the community like in your area?
Well, there's definitely a lot of people, a lot of influencers here. Like if you come to Hawaii, it's it's kind of interesting, like especially this time of year, there's just cameras all along the beach. Like everyone has their own entourage around here because that's kind of how you make it now if you're a surfer or you're a blogger and all that sort of thing. But as far as food and health goes, there's no one really else on Oahu. There is on other islands. I guess, yeah, but no one really else doing like plant-based food or whatever. There's a lot of really good people that do catering and healthy food locally, but not on like a social media platform.
I see. And you mentioned the entourages, the video cameras. Has that changed a lot in the time that you've been living in Hawaii over the years?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think before, a lot of these people worked for brands and so brands would deal with it, but now everyone's kind of their own brand. And so they team up with a videographer or a photographer and they kind of become partners in growing. And that's what young people do now and it works for them. And so, if I took you to the beach right now, you would just see lines of cameras like filming their surfer that they're following or photo shoots and all sorts of things. This time of year is pretty hectic in that sense.
So let's talk about your growth. You create this account and you're committed to 30 days. How long does it take before you start seeing people, follow you significantly and seeing your likes go up? Was this something that happened quickly within that 30 days or did it take a lot longer?
Yeah, I don't really remember like when, because I remember seeing one person follow and was like, ugh, like why are they following me? Like, and I didn't grow up with social media, so I didn't really understand that aspect of it. But when the more I shared like personal information, the more people opened up, and I was shocked to see how many people were experiencing similar things. Because I thought this was very much a no one will understand what I'm going through. I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't want to talk about this. To feeling free to share, what I thought was kind of an empty space and finding people that have very similar problems or that are so willing to help. Like there were so many people that were just like, oh, you should try this, or this is a great site to learn, or here's a recipe, And so I was just really blown away at how people were just willing to help and so nice. And so I think that's kind of what made it grow is this, I was just sharing my experience and people were relating to it and they wanted information and I became so passionate about it that I just spent so much time answering people. I would wake up at 4 a.m. and just, write people and, they'd have questions about what I was doing, what was working. And so I wanted to be their support. And it just got to where I was, spending hours of the day, like early morning before my kids woke up, because I didn't want to do it in front of them. And I just got to the point where I'm like, you know what, this is getting crazy. I need to make a blog. I'm going to put on all the information that I've ever learned that helped me. I had it approved by a doctor and just thought that could be somewhere I could, send people if they had more questions. And that could be like my support in this direction and put that out. And yeah, everything just kind of snowballed that way. And it just grew really fast.
So at the time you start this account, you're still going to school at the time, correct?
I was not. No.
Oh, were you done your education?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because piecing that together. That was okay. So what were you doing for work at the time?
Nothing really. I mean, Shem was working 15-hour days. He was doing his family restaurant and I had young kids at home. So I was just at home with the kids while he worked.
Gotcha. And talk about the family business. Was he working with the family business?
Yeah, so his dad one day just bought this little restaurant, kind of like this little shack and, kind of said, hey, I bought this, like, let's do it. And all of his boys just, got together and opened this restaurant, and it was kind of like a burger restaurant. And so for quite a few years, Shem managed those places. And it wasn't until 3 years into my Instagram, 2 or 3 years, that he took a step back and we started working together.
Got it. So your Instagram, your social media, your online presence is the business for you and your husband now to support you guys.
Yeah, there was I was getting quite a few inquiries for, kind of ambassador positions and different jobs. And I just wouldn't do any of them because I had kids at home. I didn't want to, I just felt like balance with our family was already such a mess in a sense. Like Shem was working such crazy hours. We never saw him. And I just didn't want to add any more pressure to the family as far as time goes. So, but it was, they were getting to be better offers. And Shem was just like, you know what I'm doing is not really working for us. It was very stressful. Those were some very stressful years. And if you go back to my Instagram, I think I talk about time a lot and how precious it is. And that's something that we didn't have. And so every moment that we had together, like if we went on a walk like once that month, I just always really want my goal was to have time together. It was something that was lacking in our family. And so that was something that, I would see people respond like, I want this. And I was thinking, yeah, I want this too, so cherish it and prioritize it. And at the same time, at that time, we were on the same page with that, because in his mind, he was thinking, I have to make this business work. I need 10 years, give me 10 years kind of thing. And so, it got to a point where it was causing friction in our marriage, and a new opportunity was coming along, and he just realized it for himself and thought, you know what, I need to change. We need to change. And we started something else. We broke that mold and took a chance on something else.
And how is working together as a couple?
It's awesome. It's something that we always wanted to do. It definitely took some time. People say oh, how do you make things work? And, we've been married 15 years now. And one thing you realize is that time doesn't mean overnight. It took us probably 6 or 8 months to weed through egos and, figure out how to work together. And, but when in the grand scheme of things, 8 months isn't that long. In the time, it feels like this is not going to work. Some things are good, but some things you butt heads with, or, you're going through different things in your, Shem went from being the boss and managing all these people to me saying, no, I don't want to hear your ideas, So it's, because for me, it was still very almost like a sacred place for me. I didn't want to monetize it. I wanted to stay very true to being supportive of people. And he's more of a numbers guy. He was like, oh, you can make a t-shirt and make all this money. And I'm like, this is not what it's for. This is to support health and people. And I want to be an example, because that's going to help people. And so, those were the sorts of conversations we'd have. He didn't see it at first as this is dear to my heart. Don't take it and try to sell it kind of thing. And so once we were on the same page, and he really realized okay, what she's doing works and she wants that to be that way, I'm not going to try to change it kind of thing. That's when it got easier to work together. And it's always worked. We've created a really good balance for our family with it.
And do you find that when it became an actual business, and now that your husband is retired from his other job, and you're both all in on this business of your brand, do you find the pressure changed? Because in the beginning it was all for fun, and you actually didn't want people really to come and see your account. And now it's the opposite. You're trying to obviously get more followers to help with your message, spread that out, and help people with their health and wellness. but there is a pressure there when it goes from being totally for fun to now being a business that, you know, feeds your family. So talk about how that adjustment took place.
That's a great question. Um, well, I guess if I'm being completely honest, there's a lot of times where I thought I was done. You know, like I remember when I was almost at 1 million followers, like for some reason people would ask me all the time, like, what are you going to do when you hit 1 million followers? And I thought, it's such an interesting question. Like I'm never really thinking about the numbers, or I wasn't then. And I thought, oh, I'm going to retire. Like I'm going to be done. Because there is that part of me, like the majority part of me, that's like more comfortable being offline. And I didn't grow up with social media, and I'm protective of my time with my kids. And I love the idea of throwing my phone away and not doing it. You know, that part of that is very desirable for me. But then also I have this part of me that loves to create and connect and be a part of this community that, you know, every time someone comes up to me and says like, hey, this really helped me, or my daughter, or like my family, it just is like, gosh, that's so cool that, you know, you can be a part of someone's story and it helps them. Like, it's really humbling and it's really rewarding. And so I definitely go back and forth. Like when I was pregnant with my third kid, I thought, okay, Shem, once this baby comes out, I'm not working anymore in that sense. Like I kind of fought it because there was that pressure, you know. I thought, and I also felt like this isn't forever. Like this isn't a forever thing. Like we need to get serious kind of thing and do something real, you know. And I just had this one day that was a big realization again, because Shem was like, okay, you know what? Like I'm going to we're going to start a different type of business where I'm totally, you know, in control, and like I'll support him in that sense. Like kind of switch the roles a little bit as far as like directions. And I just hit me like that I just need to be more grateful for our situation. Like it's everything that I wanted. We have time together. We're comfortable. We're supporting a positive message. Like I didn't see myself as like being a young mom and a job. Like I didn't see that as growing up, like that's how I would be, but it's actually worked and it's been a blessing, and I should, you know, respect that more. And in the end of the day, like everyone's looking for a job and you have one, so do it, you know? And so I just thought, okay, I need to just trust it more and be all in and not have this idea of like, what's the next step? What's the next step? Like just live in the moment more and, you know, finish your book. That was a big goal for me. And then, you know, take it year by year and see what's going to happen next. And that's been really grounding for us, and it's worked for us so far. And it's also, you know, it's interesting how something like, you know, you might chalk up Instagram as like, oh, it's just Instagram, but there's a lot of opportunity for different businesses and to grow yourself. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about it is you can be your driver. And if you have a passion for something, you have a platform to bring that to fruition. And it can just snowball if you do it right. And so I guess I would say I'm taking more trust in that process than I have in the past. I think I've always thought like, okay, like what are we really going to end up doing? Like, you know, I didn't understand it the way maybe younger people see it. I think a lot of younger people see it as like, this is a business opportunity and I'm going to monetize it. And for me, it wasn't meant to be a business opportunity. And it took me a while to accept that it could be both.
So Andy, having such a following on Instagram, do you ever think about how that, or maybe you have, I'm curious, do you balance that out with like building up your email list or building up on other social media platforms? Just so, you know, we know that these platforms change over time and things can move pretty quickly. Do you worry about that? And do you build other safety nets in case that happens?
Well, I'm not a very good example of what to do, because if you were a good social media girl, you would have Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and all of the above. But I'm pretty basic. I pretty much just stick to Instagram. I have my blog that I might upload to once in a while. But the best thing that you can do if you're asking for advice is to get your own subscription email. If you have people's emails, then it doesn't matter if something closes, shuts down. Like if Instagram shuts down tomorrow night, you will still have your own safety net of, communication to your people.
So that's something you've been conscious of and doing on the back end?
No, I should be doing. And I'm actually recently been thinking more of it. Yeah, I do have a list that from a long time ago when I was more into uploading my blog and stuff. But, getting pregnant, having another kid, coronavirus, homeschool, everything else, I feel like, I'm not a very good example of the whole business aspect of it in the back end. But I am coming out with this meal plan app that's coming out soon, and they've been really good at advising, like, just basically that reminder, like, if Instagram closes down, the best way to save yourself is to have a subscription, like all your people on your subscription of email lists or whatever. And so, yeah, I need to take that advice as well. Yeah.
So let's come back to your story. We talked about how after a few weeks, you started to feel great on your new diet. How did things progress from that point forward?
I was so excited and so happy that I didn't want to change anything. And so I just kept going month after month, eating the same way. And then I got to a point where I was like, I think there was a bit of fear in me that if I changed anything that I would reverse. And so I just really wanted to protect how I felt. And it was so exciting. Like, people think of plant-based or vegan as restrictive, but for me, it's the most abundant I'd ever eaten. Like, I could eat so much food now and feel so good. And before I would look at, like a blueberry and just like, oh, like, is it worth it, And so it was so freeing and so liberating. And to this day, I eat the same. I'm not as strict as I used to be. And I can handle a lot more, like, I guess you could say, bad food. Like before, if I ate something bad, 6 months after, I would feel it for like a day or two. Like it really hit my system. But now I feel like I have a stronger system. And actually, I had hypothyroidism, which I was told I'd have to take medication forever. And just last year, they were surprised when I got my blood work. I get my blood work taken every 6 months because of it. And they're like, your levels are normal. Like, we've never seen this before. And so it was like, okay, now it's been 5 years and I've reversed a lifelong condition that was, I don't have it anymore. So,
was that autoimmune? Was that Hashimoto's?
Yeah.
I'm just curious. That's a condition my wife suffers from. So I'm just curious if that was what it was. Yeah. So you're off medication now?
Yeah, it's been a year now.
Wow. Incredible.
Yeah. And so that was like a new testament to me, like, okay, there's, obviously it's good for the environment, and I don't really have a desire to eat animal-based products anymore. Like, I just don't see it the same way that I used to. And so it's just become very normal for me. But yeah, the health aspect of it is like, it's just so worth it to have the majority of your diet supporting your health, and then the indulgent part be like not the majority, or I think before it was the reverse. And that's just, kind of being in control of your life, like now, like when we travel or if it's a holiday, like I'm going to eat cookies and stuff. Like, I think that's also part of life, is to enjoy it and, indulge, but not to the point where it's hurting you or it's hurting your health and you're not functioning well as a person. So I think it's just all about figuring out what works for you and what doesn't, and prioritizing and making sure it's supporting your life and not hurting you.
Well, it sounds like for you, it was about healing in the beginning, being strict, and then finding moderation once you had healed. And that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, there's different phases we all go through, and when you're in a healing phase, you need to be potentially more strict if you want to heal. So, yeah, that makes sense. I want to I want to come back to Shem and talk about Shem and the boys when this diet started to root and you knew you were going to stick with it. Did they end up resisting, or did they end up deciding to join you on this new journey?
So a piece of advice I want to give to that question, if people are, wondering, because that's so common, like, I want to change about my family. And my first piece of advice was change for you and don't worry about anyone else, because that can get complicated, depending on your family dynamic. And so at first I just worried about myself. I just cooked the meals that I would normally cook, and then I would eat the part that I wanted to eat. So I might cook slightly different for myself, or leave out some food and then add in like what they would like chicken into their meal or whatever. And so that was at the very beginning. And then at the time we were budgeting pretty tight. And so things like buying organic peanut butter or switching out my pantry seemed very extravagant and not doable. So I just decided I was just going to do it over time, like switching out the more expensive peanut butter, for example. And then the next time buying like coconut sugar instead of brown sugar, and these sorts of things. And so it was there pushback? Not really. I mean, there was definitely conversations that had to change certain things. Like Shem, for example, he wasn't on the same eating program as us. He was working restaurants. He'd come home, we'd already eaten. And so I'd be like maybe in the middle of feeding the kids, and I was trying to feed him like broccoli or something. And he sits down and opens a pint of ice cream, and the kids are like, well, I want that. So we just had to decide, okay, you can eat that, but I really want our kids to eat better. And I'm in charge of the kids. You're not around. So can I just have this in my court? And can you just not eat that around them when I'm trying to feed them? These types of conversations. And he's like, okay, yeah, I get it. And it got to the point where the kids just felt better and excited about the foods and that we were now eating. So
I guess the end thing is, now is everybody eating the same diet, or is Shem on a vegan diet too, and are the kids, and how long did that take if they got there?
So everyone eats plant-based, I would say 80%, but my biggest goal for the kids especially is that they understand food and they understand, where it comes from, how it can support their bodies, and just have a good knowledge about food and see how it affects their body. So if they go to a birthday party or their grandma and grandpa's and they feed them whatever they're going to feed them, they can eat it. Like, I think it's important for them to like feel like they can make their own decisions. And it's pretty cool because now they'll go and they'll, binge at a birthday party and then feel sick and be like, oh, I can't wait to go home and have a smoothie, or like they recognize how it makes them feel. So I think that as they grow, that will be a powerful tool for them to have. And so I'm not like this super strict yes or no mom. It's more of like, I just want to give them the education and the tools, and we eat a certain way at home. But if you want to do something at a friend's house or your grandparents or whatever, like, it's fine. Like, it's their choice.
There's flexibility there. I like that.
And when we first started, it was a gradual process. Like, I started buying much more produce. And when I first started like shopping as like a plant-based, I was buying all this produce that felt irresponsible. I was like, how am I possibly going to eat all this before it went bad? So it became a goal. Like, I'm going to use everything that's living before I use anything canned or boxed, just to make sure it doesn't go bad. I didn't want to waste, our money. And so I just started using more and more vegetables and fruits in every meal, and for myself and for the kids. And eventually I was weeding out all like the kind of snack foods and, simple box foods that we had before. And once it was gone, they didn't ask for it anymore. But if you have a cookie next to like an apple, they're going to want the cookie. So removing the cookie, making the apple the new normal, it just changed everything. And then they stopped asking for it. And so I felt like the more I put like the things that they weren't used to in front of their face is like, this is now the new normal. And then that's what they eat. And it was like, it took time. I would say I would put things in front of them that they didn't necessarily want to eat. And it was okay. I would just say, you don't have to like it. You just have to taste it. And I just keep doing that. And then all of a sudden there is another food that they like, like a cucumber or avocado or sauerkraut or whatever. And it's like, it takes months to build that up for a kid that's not maybe used to it. But, even if it took a year, now they have 50 new foods that they love. That's a whole different diet. And that's, you build a lifetime off those new foods.
And for you guys at home, do you have a lot of healthy packaged foods within the house? Because that's one thing that's really changed. I've been in the health and wellness space for a lot of years now, and it seems like more and more there's all these great companies putting out like grain-free crackers and just even pastas that can be made with, different lentils or chickpeas. And I'm curious, A, is that something that comes into your house? And then B, how hard is that stuff to get on an island?
Well, we have some of those things, but not very much. Like, to me, buying a $7 box of crackers is like, there's just something in me that doesn't like to do it. Like, I would rather just the kids eat something like an apple or something. And so we don't have a ton of snack foods, but we do. Like, we buy the gluten-free pastas made of quinoa or whatever instead of wheat pasta a lot of the time. And, but it's not a regular thing. And I don't think it's necessarily usually a healthier choice in a lot of ways. I think it's, if you're buying a processed food, it's processed, it's not that much better for you.
Right. Are there a lot of farmers markets in your area?
There are some farmer markets. They are more tourist driven. And so there are more like, I can't remember what they're called, but you can get like farmer food and like pay for a subscription around here and it'd be affordable. But that's the tricky part about Hawaii. Like, you can get everything. Like, there's a Whole Foods here. There's a Costco here. It's not like we're on this deserted island. It's quite like civilized. And, but it's also very much a tourist destination. And so the prices are quite high for anything. So I don't know, maybe health food and like packaged health food's more accessible where you guys are on the mainland. But here it's like, my kids are hungry. Like, they could plow through that kind of stuff so fast. And so it's better to eat more real food. Like, more of their snack food would be leftovers than it would be snack foods, because those foods are more sustainable in their bodies and fill them up and make them last. Like, they're boys and they're constantly moving and burning food. So they eat a bag of chips. It's just like dust in their body. It doesn't do much.
Plus access too. Like you said, there's probably more packaged foods in the healthy realm on the mainland, but you're in Hawaii. There's all kinds of local fresh fruit and vegetables. So, eat what's there. It's a beautiful embrace that you have that access, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So talk about what it was like writing the new book. This was a new undertaking for you. You're now an author, and it's congrats. What was that like putting that together?
It was really cool. Like, I first started it and thought, I'd just do it by myself. And then I had the opportunity to partner with a publisher. And as I was deciding what route to go, like, should I do it myself or go with a publisher, I thought it would be a really cool experience to have that experience of writing a book and having a team. And it's been really good. And for me in my life of like young kids and just being all over the place, it was really grounding to have, a schedule put in place and deadlines. And I'm really grateful for that, because I think it would have been hard to finish it without that pressure. And yeah, it's been a really cool experience. Like for me, writing is pretty therapeutic. It's fun. And it's just like another thing. Like making my blog was I hope this helps people, and this was a huge project that I could be creative with like the photos and the writing and how it put together. But more than anything, I hope it helps someone. Like it's really fun to be able to give something to someone else that they can use, So whether it's, a new favorite recipe or learning health advice, like this book has a lot of time and a lot of effort has been put into this to make it as user friendly as possible for anyone who's looking to just learn some new recipes or learn how to go plant-based. Like it's much more than a cookbook. There's a guide, there's a 30-day exactly what I did, the stages of how you'll feel in it, what to put in your pantry. Everything that's in like the pantry and fridge section is all the exact same ingredients that you would use in all the recipes. All the recipes use very simple ingredients that you can find in your normal stores. There's no like superfood powders, for the most part. It's all very user friendly, family friendly, and should taste as good. Like if you're not a vegan or plant-based, you should still be stoked on what you're eating. Like flavor is a big deal for us. And so I made sure these are not like for like the uber healthy, like don't care what it tastes like. Like I want it to taste good and be healthy. Like I want you to be surprised that it's healthy. And so, yeah, that's what I hope. I hope that it makes people excited about eating plant-based, and as far as you want to take it, whether it's a few meals a week or completely, like it's a book for anyone who just wants to learn more about little hacks to make that happen and have fun with it.
It's an incredible book. Congrats again. And Andy, after you're done promoting this book, do you have anything else lined up on the horizon?
Well, I do have this meal plan app that's being developed, and it's also to support that same thing. Like this app helps you know exactly, if you're tracking your macros or whatever it is you're tracking, it'll have all that information, and it'll even deliver groceries to your door if you want. And so that's a pretty big project that's also happening in the new year. And I also have a plant-based protein powder that I've been using for the past year that I got to develop, and that's going to be coming out this next year as well. And it's the best I've ever had, so I'm really excited because it's like a very common question, and the one supplement that I really enjoy taking myself see a difference. And so it's fun to be able to work with a team and create one that's really tastes good and is very healthy and simple ingredients.
So do you take any other supplements?
I get a B12 shot every couple months. Or I take a spray. Like that's another thing that's also coming out with the protein powder a little later on is it's a spray and it's a B12. And that's pretty much it. Like when I'm pregnant, I take a prenatal. When I'm breastfeeding, I try to take also like a prenatal type of vitamin. But I'm not very good at being consistent with taking supplements. I think it's good to take like a multivitamin if you're, not meeting all your dietary needs. But for the most part, I just really like taking a plant-based protein powder in my smoothies. For some reason, they just fill me up and I feel more stable on it than like a blood sugar spike. And so that's my main one that I take every day.
And we've talked a lot about food and we talked about surfing, but what are some of the other non-negotiables in your day-to-day life that you make sure you're getting in on a regular basis to maintain your well-being?
I really like to exercise. I think I like to break a sweat almost every day. I just know that just helps my mood, my digestion, everything. And so I make that a priority to do something every day, especially during these years where my kids are young. And, the last 2 years, my baby is not the greatest sleeper. And so there's lots of, nights where you're up like 4 or 5 times. And so if I didn't, I think I'd feel more like a zombie. But if I know I just go for a quick run or do something, that seems to give me energy for the day. So something active, whether it's a run, go surf, or some push-ups, like doesn't really matter. But yeah.
I know what that's all about. We have a 10-month-old at home, so
Oh, there you go.
we've been navigating the sleep, and we're in a good spot right now. So, but again, I'm learning as a new parent, this is our first child, that even when you feel like you have it figured out, the next day it can flip on you. So
Yeah.
you just take it day by day and enjoy the beauty of it all, and that's what we're doing.
You sound seasoned. That's actually very grounding. It's a very grounding thing to realize.
Any plans for you guys to expand the family?
I don't know. I mean, Shem says we talk about it quite a bit actually. I think about it a lot, and he thinks like, we're good. But I've had this dream of this little girl like twice, and it makes me wonder, like, are we supposed to have another? And so I don't know. We'll see.
Well, you both come from big families, right? So you're used to having a lot of people around.
Yeah, totally.
Well, Andy, we've talked about your upcoming book, and we've talked about a lot of the other things that you have your hands in. But before I let you go, how else can the listeners connect with you?
Oh, just social media. I'm on my Instagram handle is Earthy Andy, and that's probably the best place. That's the place I check in on daily and try to see like what people are looking for, whether they're looking for a new recipe or whatever. There's lots of information on there. And then I have my website if you're interested in learning more about plant-based living and tips and tricks and all that sort of thing is on earthyandy.com.
I'm going to link it all up in the show notes. And coming back to the social media again, I'm just curious, now that it has become your business and it's become such a big thing, is there a lot more structure around how you post? Because there's stories as well and sharing little tidbits throughout the day. Do you have a lot of structure to that, or is it more organic?
I am a very impulsive person, and I feel like for me to feel organic and authentic, there isn't much structure, but I do usually post before the kids wake up so that it's done. If I am going to post, I do have 2 managers that deal with all like business inquiries. And so I actually don't even look at my email for any inquiries. It's all dealt with for me because I am very protective of my time. And so I do have a team that deals with that back end sort of thing. If there's any contracts or anything like that, they deal with that and present it to me once it's like done. And yeah, for the most part, like stories or whatever, there isn't a lot of structure. I have some friends that plan their 2 weeks ahead and are really organized about it. That's not my personality. Sometimes I wish it was, but for the most part, it's pretty organic. And then if I have like a sponsored post, then that's then I'll know the date of that. But as far as things in between, it's just what I'm feeling like, or what I'm feeling like.
And I'm sure that's why it connects with so many people, the organicness, the realness of that. Last question about that is, talk about the difference between hitting post in the early days when you didn't have a lot of followers, and then now hitting post knowing it's going out to over 1 million people. Do you feel that pressure, or is it just something you've gotten used to?
Honestly, when I had 3,000 followers, that felt like a lot of followers. Like I was like, what the heck? Like, and million is like, I don't think I really comprehend that number as much, but I definitely feel like I'm not as open as I would be if I had a smaller following. Like I think just the world in general, like I don't want negative comments my way, so I think I stay pretty neutral in a lot of, like, I actually am a pretty opinionated person and like to debate and have conversation, but I keep things pretty neutral online just because I'm not ready to have backlash, and it's just so easy when there's that many people looking at something. And so I think that would be the biggest thing, is that I just kind of I'm probably a lot more boring online than I am in real life.
When you get those negative comments, because we all do, what do you do? Just delete it, or do you ever try and respond?
Well, actually, I feel like I rarely do, and I've been really lucky that way. Once in a while, like I had it, like on Halloween, I had my kid was wearing a political mask, and I never even thought anything of it, and there was just like an outburst of like, it was right before the election, and they thought there's like a hidden message or something, so I just took it down. I was like, oh, like this was not the point of the post, and it was totally interpreted that way. And so I just deleted it and just said on my stories, like, I didn't mean anything by that post. I wasn't trying to say I'm for or against any party. Like, it was just a Halloween costume. Like, my apologies, and just it's done with kind of thing.
Oh, it's good to hear. Andy, I really appreciate your time. Really enjoyed this conversation and wish you all the best with the book launch and everything you're doing, and we'll keep in touch.
Thank you so much. It was really great to talk to you and be a part of your show.
Thank you.